Greetings all! This is Justin, this is Nick, and we're here once again for the Summer of Jank.
The Summer of Jank continues. At this point, I think I'm going to manage to do one more of these videos, the rate we're going. Really enjoying it, but I do have to point out that yes, the views are starting to peter down a lot. People are clearly more interested in edition lists overall. I can't deny that fact, but first edition is still a lot of fun and very janky, as we've discovered. So much jank. And yes, let's have a look at three more lists, one from each of the three factions, and have a chat about where it sits now, whether it's a fun list, what happens when we move into second edition, and just have a good old time with it. So we have three lists submitted by you guys here. Yeah. Let's start off this list by J. Skulker. This is our Imperialist for the week. We got Kylo Ren in his shuttle and Rear Admiral Shenru in the Decimator.
Kylo Ren has Ruthlessness, Collision Detector, Recon Specialist, Weapons Guidance, and Pattern Analyzer, and Kylo Ren's shuttle.
Rear Admiral Shenru has Mara Jade, Tactician, and Rebel Captive. Also, he has a spare EPT slot that's not been used here, so I would just recommend right off the bat just popping in something like Trickshot in there because it's a free EPT that you can use, and Trickshot's good when you have a 360 turret, so that's what I'd do there. But yeah, in terms of how the list functions, there's an interesting little trick with this list. Your opponent is punished no matter what ship they shoot. Yeah. Which is a lot of fun. Now, you can't put the Kylo crew on Rear Admiral Shenru like we often like to do because Kylo's in his shuttle. Nevertheless, that's not a bad thing. You do have to deal with the shuttle. You are going to be able to deal the I'll show you the dark side card.
It's actually a very interesting way to go about it. Either way, you're getting hurt. You're either getting stressed with Rear Admiral Shenru, and it's a fair amount of stress, actually.
Yeah, with Mara Jade and Tactician as well, you're just going to be able to stress your opponent's ships full stop. Yeah. And it just seems to be efficient enough overall in the way it attacks. I mean, Decimator and Upsilon was a thing for a very short amount of time. It's something which answers a lot of things really well. I can't imagine Aces doing too well against this list, for example, because Aces just don't really have an efficient way of dealing with the turret attack. Maybe they'd be alright against Kylo, but apart from that, it's a bit rough for them. Yeah,
they'd have to go for Kylo first of all.
I feel like this would go well toe-to-toe with just ships with big stats that are just punch each other as hard as possible. Yeah. Might be alright against Ghost Fen, theoretically speaking. It doesn't rely on too many shenanigans, not too many dice mods. I mean, it would suck if Rear Admiral Shenru's ability got shut down, but I don't think he relies on it at all. And also, yeah, with Trickshot, if we just chucked it on there, it gives it a bit more aggression, and that feels pretty good. Decent amount of stress control on attack across the board. There's not a lot to say here. And that's good. When you can sort of get control and attack efficiency across the board on two platforms that can blank a lot of different playstyles, feels like a good option. So yeah, Jay Skulker, if you've used this and you've had any success with it, let us know, because it looks like a very interesting concept. Yeah. Let's move on to the Scum list by Benjamin Benbob. And thank you for submitting this. Apparently this was your first list ever, so thank you so much. This has Bosk, Fenrau, and a Jakku Gunrunner. Bosk has cluster missiles, guidance chips, a scavenger crane, Boba Fett, 4 LOM. And you've actually noted here that you've made Bosk to 46 points, despite the fact that this equals 43. I'm going to assume you meant to put Dengar in there, because that is the standard build that we usually do with Bosk. So I've just put Eden Dengar in to talk about here. Yep.
Fenrau has Fearlessness, Concord Dawn Protector, Advanced Proton Torpedoes, and Guidance Chips.
And the little Jakku Gunrunner has a Space Tug Tractor Array Intel Agent. A nice little addition to any list, I reckon. That is a very, very fun little 18 points.
Yeah, you do enjoy playing that.
I do. It's so efficient for the low points cost. People tend to overlook the quad jumper because it doesn't really do much and it dies really quickly. But it has a certain measure of control that no other ship has. The ability to give out trust tokens during the activation phase, which is really, really valuable. In terms of what this list is doing, I mean, Bosk, Fenrau, and Jakku Gunrunner, like none of that is crazy or out of this world in terms of the design. You've used a build on Fenrau here, which is probably a bit more aggressive than I would generally like. I tend to be a fan of push the limits and auto thrusters and that kind of stuff, just like the very classic ace build. And this cost 1 point more. We have advanced proton torpedoes and guidance chips. That is really, really aggressive. It doesn't feel good when you lose Fen Rao before getting those advanced proton torpedoes off. They're not easy to get off because you must fire them at range 1. However, it is a 5 dice attack boosted by 1 dice because of Fen Rao's ability, and you add a hit result on top of that because of Fearlessness if you happen to trigger that as well. So 7 dice. 7 dice that are probably going to hit as well because of the nature of advanced proton torpedoes. You get to change up to 3 blanks to a focus result. So you basically only ever use it when you have a focus token attached to your ship.
Yeah.
Which you can achieve because target locks stay, but focus tokens don't. So you have to time it perfectly. You've got no push to limits to try and make it easier. I mean, I would prefer advanced proton torpedoes if we had push the limits because then you can focus and target lock in the same turn. It makes it way more expensive. Obviously, yes, Fearlessness, the ceiling is higher because you get another dice if you manage to pull it all off. But it's risky.
Yeah,
Benjamin,
36 points.
Yeah.
It's a fair chunk.
It's 1 point more than a more consistent version of the build, I think. Benjamin, if you have flown this, let us know what you think. Honestly, I've never flown the ultra-aggressive version of Fen Rao. I've always done push limits and auto thrusters. So if you found, hey, this actually works, great. I keep nuking my opponents over and over again. That's good. Let me know, because I'm really curious about that. Bosk is interesting, and I like using Bosk with missiles and guidance chips because it's such an easy way to get criticals across. The classic thing that people tend to do, and this is, again is probably a bit more consistent, is to use Mangler Cannon on Bosk. Mangler Cannon gives you the advantage of being able to do an attack that gives you critical hits time and time again. And with Bosk's ability, you can turn those critical hits into 2 regular hits, which is very, very efficient. Yeah. So what you've done here, you've spent 4 points on cluster missiles instead of the 4 points on Mangler Cannon. And yes, there's the argument that Mangler Cannon is more consistent. However, cluster missiles is good fun. It will do more damage across one attack phase. Or combat phase. Sorry, second edition is warping my brain.
And I suppose you've got Scavenger Crane to pick up the missiles again.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. Now, again, it's a bit more of a spiky strategy. If Scavenger Cranes doesn't quite work, it's not going to feel good like if you manage to just kill your opponent, but Bosk is just too far away to use the cranes. That sucks. However, this is also a Scum list. People like to have the more spiky gameplay. I'm a Scum player too. I completely understand it myself. Plus, Boba Fett, Forlom, Fen Rao. Boba Fett's always interesting on Boss because they have to suffer the critical hit in order to discard Boba to discard one of their cards. Okay. But Bosk's ability wants you to use the critical hit to have 2 hits. So it's a versatile game strategy, but you have to sort of go, okay, when I get the crit, what am I going to do? But it's also good because you're already going to build Bosk out in such a way that's going to want to get critical hits. So Boba Fett fits in there quite nicely. And yeah, for Lom and Dengar, it's just about attack efficiency. It's pretty solid. On cluster missiles, you get all those bonuses twice. It's worth pointing out that guidance chips is specifically once a turn, so even though cluster missiles fires twice, you only get 1 critical. Okay. So you can't do that again and use Bosk's ability again. I'm not too sure how Bosk works with cluster missiles in terms of activating his ability. My gut instinct says, based on what I know about the rules, you can use that twice. However, there is also the whole clause how you have to the 2 attacks count as 1 attack hitting kind of thing. In any case, you can only guidance chips one of those hits anyway, so it's not likely to come up twice, but it might. Overall, pretty solid list. You've gone for the more spiky style gameplay. The control that you have with Jakku Gunrunner is going to help that a lot. You need to set up the most perfect shots with Bosk and Fen Rao, and you need control in order to pull that off. So, a good idea nonetheless. Benjamin, if you're watching, I recommend giving this a go, trying the more consistent versions of it, and then making a decision about which way you'd like to go in the future. Because as fun as like the spike gameplay stuff is, it can be frustrating.
The last list is a Rebel list, and it's from Jedi Oswald. It has Chewbacca and Lebo in it.
Yes, which is a classic archetype, actually. Okay. Was kind of going out of favour just as I started playing in tournaments. It was called Chewiebo back in the day.
Oh, that's a good name.
It is a good name. Chewbacca in the Falcon has Expertise, C-3PO, R2-D2, and the Millennium Falcon title. Now, just as a side note, you didn't specify which version of Chewie or the Falcon that you submitted. I'm assuming it's the old version of both because that makes the most sense with this archetype. Oh, and it's also got Smuggling Compartment and Guidance chips. Actually, they both do. They don't do anything, so I might just take them off. They'll slowly fade away as I'm talking about them. On to Lebo.
Yeah, Lebo has Determination, Mangler Cannon, Ray, Outrider, and some disappearing things.
That's right.
They've gone all Marvel on us.
Yeah. I don't feel so good. I will say, like, I was trying to theorise before we looked at this, like, why would you put on junk upgrades unless you have some resource that wants you to discard upgrades, like a chopper or something like that? The only reasonable thing I can think of, and answer in the comments if you can think of a better reason than this, is if your opponent has the Boba Fett crew card and they want to discard one of your cards, they might accidentally choose one of the cards and do nothing. But what we have here is essentially the Chewibo archetype updated a bit, so we have some new flavour to it. Ray on Lebo, expertise on Chewbacca. That's it in terms of new stuff. I like Ray on Lebo a lot. The ability to retain focus tokens and use them later on. Feels good, and it really does feel like it's doing what this list wants to do, which is just turtle. If you guys never flown with this or against this, it's just about two ships that have already good stats and can already attack efficiently enough, and they just deny damage. Which is frustrating. Also, in terms of second edition, this might be viable moving forward because both of these parts have pretty much gone through unscathed.
But however, in second edition, the YT-24 is a bit more expensive?
Yes. The reason it's more expensive is because it basically has Outrider and a heavy laser cannon built into it.
Okay.
In that you have 4 red dice at range 2 to 3 and 3 at range 1. You've gone for a Mangler Cannon build, which is not reflective of what it would look like in second edition, so you'd have to trim the points elsewhere in order to make it work, which might make it tricky. Also, no determination, nothing like that, and no expertise and anything like that. The ships are still good, don't get me wrong. You'd have to make them work in different ways. I don't think overall this is desirable in terms of game design when we have ships that just deny, like this ultra, not control in terms of like tractor and stress, but control in terms of you just can't do anything and I win.
Okay.
I don't know if FFG really want that style of gameplay back in the game.
No.
But it's a good thought experiment nonetheless. I will say, though, the only thing I'd really look at changing here is R2-D2. There's a reason he never really saw all that much play in first edition. Because he's very situational and spiky. He can very easily damage your ship just about every time you want to use him. And he's worth 4 points. And I think, especially because you jokingly put on Smuggling Compartment, you can put on better stuff in general. We can think about countermeasures on one of these guys. We could think about Burnout Slam, Contraband Cybernetics, even Inertial Dampeners on one of them. I would think Dampeners on Lebo and countermeasures on Chewbacca would be better than R2-D2. Use that 4 points for that instead.
Or what you could also do is take off... I know Expertise is a very good card, but if you take that off and put something else on...
Yeah, that's an idea.
Shave some points there.
I think the great thing about Expertise is it gives Chewbacca always good attacks.
Yeah.
And that's why we put it on here, because you don't need to use any of your other resources towards attacking. You can use evade tokens and focus and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're right. It is 4 points, and the points are tight as they are. So it's definitely not outrageous to think we could do something else. There's not a whole lot I'd really change there. I personally would keep Expertise, but I understand why it looks like something that you change out. And I think there are arguments. There are probably better things in the list. Like, you take out Expertise, you could put like more countermeasures on, that kind of stuff. There's a bit of flexibility here. I don't think R2-D2 is quite pulling his weight in this list enough to justify that 4 points. But yeah, an interesting list, and it'll be interesting to see whether this kind of thing makes it into second edition. So yeah, cool. We'll have some more chats about that in the future.
Definitely.
In the meantime, guys, yes, I'm going to aim to make one more of these Summer of Jank videos. In the comment section, if you want any lists that we want to talk about. I've already got a massive list submitted over the past year, so just a heads up, I'm probably not going to focus so much on new lists. There's been a lot of submissions since the early days of the channel, so I'll do my best to cover what I possibly can. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Reddit, and I'll catch you guys later.
Bye.